The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined this week by...
the dairy farmer that Victor Frankenstein single-handedly kept in business. That is Hayden Orr. My pronouns are also he, him.
Yeah. I think that let's just get right into that since you brought it up. The milk thing is so weird.
Yeah, it's like even at that particular scene at the end, where Victor is like buying supplies for the Arctic. He gets 3 cans of condensed milk or powdered milk or something. It's like, come on, man.
So I have one of my housemates. She drinks a ton of milk. She's pregnant right now, so she's drinking like even more milk than usual. And we kind of all pick on her about how like she's the only like weirdo who just like loves to drink milk. And it's kind of like because of this, we've all sort of noticed that a lot of times villains in movies drink milk. I think because people think it's just kind of weird and off-putting. So it seems perfect for Victor, but I think also I think it has to do with like life, it's sort of this, mothers give milk to their babies. Like I think there's definitely like it's sort of like the essence of life. So I think that maybe is part of why Del Toro chose this weird quirk for Victor. But it does also kind of set him up as just a weirdo. Like, I really, really liked the scene where he's just like, he just holds up the glass and like just kind of like nods at the servant like he doesn't even talk to him. He's just like, fill up my milk. I want more. Yeah,
and nobody else in that scene is drinking milk, so that one servant is just there for Victor's convenience because he's just got a carafe of like, slowly warming milk. Yeah, I don't... my old roommate and co-host on my show that is currently AFK or whatever, John, he was a big milk guy. And he, like, every time we bring it up in our, like, friend group, he's like, I only drink milk when I was eating cookies or with cereal or whatever. And I literally caught him one time at, like, 2 a.m. in the kitchen, just... housing a fucking like a half gallon of milk, no food in sight, just downing like the entire thing. And so yeah, it is like it's a very strange, like you really don't meet many adults that are really into drinking milk as like a regular beverage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never met John in person, but just from the times he's been on our show and all the listening to your alls, for some reason that just feels right. Like he just seems like that kind of person.
Yeah. Yeah. John, he's unique. This is off topic, but I think, did we tell you that when we were covering Twin Peaks on our show, we met Twin Peaks season 1, and that's what we told him. But he ended up watching all of The Return before realizing that was not what we were talking about. Like, he would text us and be like, man, this show's really weird. And it's Twin Peaks. So me and TJ were like, but yeah, it's weird. It's Twin Peaks. It's David Lynch. It's a little weird, sure. And then, like, the day before we were set to record, he said something I don't even remember, but it set me and TJ off, and we were like, which season have you been watching? And yeah, it turned out he had watched the entirety of The Return, thinking that that was the original season of Twin Peaks.
Yeah, what a wild thing. Like, he may be like the only person to have seen The Return before the original series.
Yeah, because he was so confused too, and we were like, yeah, that's because it's like the last part, man. All these characters that you have no context for, just yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's really great.
But also with the milk thing, I mean, Victor's definitely, obviously with the casting choice of Mia Goth as Elizabeth and Victor's mother, there's definitely like that weird Oedipal, like mama's boy thing going on. On top of the like milk being like a representation of like a life-giving force.
Oh yeah, it feels like, I wonder if that's maybe a tiny nod to like Bride of Frankenstein, like the dual role thing, but of course also just like Mia Goth likes to do this. This is her and X playing the two roles or whatever.
Right.
But I think joining those two characters, I think it is an intentional thing to like link, the love interest and the mother together in this way. And the milk thing, that's a good point. I think that definitely triangulates with that really well.
I mean, I don't think you're too far off though on it. Also, I mean, with Guillermo del Toro, a lot of the times, like certain choices in his movies are like they're for one thing, but also they have like the added benefit of representing another metaphor or concept. And Elizabeth in this movie very much is like the bride, in a way, like of the monster, and not just a bride of Frankenstein. Her wedding dress was intentionally created to mimic the wrappings of the original bride costume. And her and the creature have such an interesting connection. I can't think of any other Frankenstein movie where Elizabeth and the monster are like have such a close connection with one another, because she really, on an emotional and empathetic level, like connects with the monster like almost immediately as soon as she meets him.
Yeah, which I thought, like, I think she may be like the most interesting Elizabeth I can think of in any movie. Elizabeth is usually just kind of like blank woman that's just kind of there because she needs to be. But it definitely does feel like with this, it's sort of like, it feels like an acknowledgement of like, hey, remember this was written by like an 18-year-old girl. This is about womanhood and about the way that you can feel like a monster as a young woman, that society doesn't know what to do with you and that you don't really have a place. And yeah, it definitely feels like this Elizabeth like speaks to that in a way that often she's just kind of like a forgotten sort of cardboard cutout of a woman.
Yeah. She's I love too that she's not disgusted by Victor's like work, but she is almost disgusted by him as a person, because she's very into science and especially into insects, which that's a Guillermo del Toro thing right there. Guillermo del Toro, I was literally watching this movie, I was like, okay, there's the insects, now where's the gears and cogs? Like, is he not going to find a way to work that in? But he literally did in The Blind Man's Cottage. And I was like, there you go. But she's very like forward thinking for a female character set in like a movie that's set in this time. She's very, interested in science and the natural world, insects, and she's not at all put off by like all the anatomical and like gore stuff in Victor's workshop. But Victor as a person is he's so unlikable in this movie. It's basically just his personality that she is repulsed by.
Yeah. I think at first there's a little bit of flirtation there, but it feels it's more like she's so fascinated by his work that she almost like is able to forgive the kind of person he is. And then when she meets the monster, it's just like she has no need for Victor anymore. she can like actually just be in love with his work.
Yeah, like on a literal level. It's really unexpected. I was not, before I saw it, I was not expecting Guillermo del Toro to really do so much with Elizabeth. And I don't know why. I mean, he's usually pretty good with female characters. In general, I think the marketing and stuff was just so focused on Victor and the creature that I wasn't really thinking about what he would end up doing with Elizabeth. And it's basically it's like a love triangle between Victor, the creature, and Elizabeth in certain ways.
Yeah, which doesn't even we haven't even mentioned that she's actually engaged to William, which I feel like is probably. I feel like one thing, I don't know why, I was kind of expecting that Del Toro might follow the novel more closely than we usually see, and in actuality, he doesn't at all. Like, I mean, it diverges a lot. It does, starting with I think like you seen the posters before it came out and like seeing the boat in the Arctic, and it was like, oh, okay, we're doing that. We're gonna get that framing story. But outside of that, yeah, I think he really played with like moving the characters around in a way to tell the story he wanted to tell, to the point that like, William is the same age, or is like, a couple years younger than Victor, not a child. And he is the one who is engaged to Elizabeth, but he's kind of a non-entity, which I think is, sort of intentional. Like he's just like, there he's almost more of like a Clerval character, in that he's just kind of there to help, but like is doesn't really offer a lot other than that he is part of this, I guess, love square. But yeah, I don't think he doesn't seem like a real rival to anybody in this. Like I don't think Elizabeth is particularly interested in him, even though, like you said, they do get married, like she does, has like the bride bandage dress and everything. But yeah, he just kind of feels like he's just there.
Yeah, he really like, I feel like a lot of the like stuff that's going on with like characters' emotions and like their ulterior motives and stuff just goes way over William's head this entire movie. Like he's kind of aloof to like what everybody's actually feeling and like what is going on. Like, I mean, he's partially helping fund Victor's work, and so he's aware of it to a certain extent, but I don't think before he sees the creature down in the catacombs, I don't think he was fully aware of what exactly Victor was doing, was he?
Yeah, I don't think so. He definitely seems pretty surprised when he comes upon him.
Because it was mostly Christoph Waltz's character that was like really dead set on Victor, fully creating new life out of corpses.
Yeah, and I mean that character is pretty much like a wholly new, creation for this film. He's kind of like, so his name's Heinrich Harlander, so I guess he does have like the Henry kind of aspect to his name, but he's more like, honestly, he's kind of like the like Igor, like the Bela Lugosi Igor, in that like his the big reveal with him is that like he's funding this because he wants his brain put into the monster's body because his body is deteriorating, in this case because of syphilis. And of course, just like in that's Ghost, right? Ghost of Frankenstein, where like they don't wanna, in that case, it's like, no, we don't want to put your evil brain in a body. And hear Victor being like, no, if you have syphilis, your brain is also fucked up. I'm not going to put that in my creation's body and have it deteriorate further.
I was getting from Christoph Waltz in this movie, he was giving me vibes as Igor, like Lugosi Igor, but also like a little bit of Pretorius and a little bit of Polidori from Frankenstein, the True Story. Mm-hmm. With just the fact that he was like, he's basically there the entire creation process with Victor. I mean, he's not really helping all that much. He's just taking photograph plates or whatever you would call them. But he's very like, I don't know, just his personality, basically up until Victor realizes that he's got syphilis. He's so got this air of superiority about him that just very much reminded me of James Mason and Ernst Thessinger's portrayals of those like Victor Frankenstein adjacent characters who also are aware of like the exact kind of ghoulish stuff that's going on with the experiments.
And I think all of those characters are sort of like, they're sort of like devil figures, like, like Faustian Mephistopheles characters that like, the Victor / Henry have to like, make a deal with. And like, I think in all of those cases, you right away, like this guy is evil. He's got an evil ulterior motive here. I don't know what it is yet. And it seems even like Victor's like, I don't trust this guy, but I could use this money, so I'm gonna just go along with this and hope that I can, zig when he zags at the right moment and not get screwed over by this. But I'm definitely risking it all here to get what I need to do my experiments.
Yeah, well, and that comparison of like a devil on your shoulder kind of figure, the scene where they're gathering bodies from that battlefield, and he's just casually sitting on like a broken like horse wagon part, and he's casually smoking a cigarette, just being like, yeah, pick whatever you want. I don't care. We'll take it back. That was very like kind of like devilish sort of imagery, just a very wealthy, aristocratic looking fellow casually about, a horrible battlefield full of mutilated corpse and like suffering and death.
Yeah, again with like the Pretorius thing, like there's that, the scene where he's just in the graveyard, or in the, the crypt, like eating dinner and just like having a great time surrounded by death and bones, and it just doesn't bother him at all. He's just unfazed. I think definitely that's all intentional from Del Toro. I think he's nodding to all of these things.
Definitely. Because Del Toro's such a fan of those first two original, Universal films that, basically any detail that you see in this movie that you might link and be like, oh, is that like a whale reference? Is that, a Karloff reference, a Bride reference? It's more than likely intentional, because Del Toro is just a huge fanboy of the first two whale movies, or the Karloff movies, since Whale only did the original two.
Yeah, there's I did notice like in the lab, like behind Victor in like one or two scenes, there is like a very classic like spinning science wheel. I guess we haven't really had one of those on here in a while, but like I almost wonder if it's like, a relic one that was, in a vault somewhere, or if they just carefully recreated it. But it looks straight out of those original Universal movies. It doesn't actually get used in the big like, reanimation sequence. It's clearly just there as a little nod, like.
Well, Victor's workshop, like his little apartment workshop, is very like Hammer Frankenstein, where it's like a lot more like wooden tables and possibly like handmade devices and anatomical stuff laying around in jars and beakers, whereas the Tower Laboratory is very universal. It's this huge like castle with like turbines and lightning rods and the really wonderful messianic creation slab. That's what I was feeling as I was watching. I was like, okay, he's got some like Hammer Frankenstein in here, and then he's transitioning into Universal. Speaking of Hammer too, I think I've said this before, but I would have loved if Hammer, when they were like kind of trying to get back into the swing of things with, what was it, The Woman in Black, that Daniel Radcliffe movie, if they would have had Charles Dance come in and like do another Hammer Frankenstein film as Peter Cushing's sort of Baron Frankenstein.
Oh yeah, that would have been nice.
Charles Dance to me has always kind of had, not just because they kind of look similar, but he also has that same way of carrying himself that Peter Cushing has as the Baron. And in this movie, he plays Victor's father, but he definitely looks like Peter Cushing from Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. Like, he's got like a very similar coat. He's got the same like weird blonde wispy hair.
Yeah, that's I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I think that's probably, again, a sort of intentional nod. Yeah, it's a shame that that he didn't get to do something like that. That would have been really cool. Yeah, it's like an upper class British sort of like superiority and like a very like haughty nature. But yeah, he's great in this, and like I thought that it was, I think usually the Baron is kind of like, relatively benevolent. Sometimes he can be kind of like, he's like a stuffy, he's a judge most of the time, but here he's a surgeon, and is training Victor in the ways of surgery, but he's incredibly abusive, which I thought was a really, I think it was a very Del Toro thing to have done, to have this sort of like complicated father-son relationship then be passed on to, Victor the father to his son the creature. Of course Victor can't be a good father. He doesn't know what a good father looks like.
Yeah, that's definitely like, I don't know if you've watched a lot of interviews with Del Toro and the like different actors in this movie, but that abusive relationship of Victor's father and him is very intentional. Apparently Del Toro for a long time during his childhood kind of had a combative relationship with his father. And Oscar Isaac too apparently had sort of a similar situation, and so they very much they had, and in one interview I saw, they talked about the fact that they both wanted to bring that for Victor, and that is, like you said, it's sort of not exactly the only reason, but it's definitely one of the main reasons why Victor is kind of a horrible dickhead in this movie. Is because he literally doesn't have an example of of like a good dad, and then on top of that, even if his dad was not abusive, he was barely ever there. So, and then that ties into Victor being like the mama's boy and being obsessed with his mother, and it all kind of meshes together very well to create this version of Victor that Del Toro and Oscar Isaac crafted together.
Yeah, I think, and like we have a scene earlier with young Victor where he's going to be punished, and the Baron, Victor like puts out his hands like, oh, I've like, he's been through this before, and and the Baron's like, no, you're going to be a surgeon now. It's time to move. We got to take care of your hands. So I'm going to hit you in the face instead. And he like has like a switch, like whips him across the face. And then we see that repeated where like when Victor first sort of like breaks and like is abusive to the creature for the first time, he has like a rod that he uses, and it feels like it's definitely an echo of the previous scene.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a direct echo, because it's like a metal rod, but it's definitely like got that same look of the thin learning switch, and he's like hitting the monster like about the face, which is where his father hit him with the switch. So it's definitely like a direct. I do certain stuff like now where me and my dad have an okay relationship now, but it was very contentious when I was a kid, and I will find myself, especially when I get angry nowadays, I'll do something or say something, I'll like take a step back and I'm like, God damn, I sound just like my dad, or I like, that's something my dad would have done when I was a kid, and it's like it's embarrassing. It's like makes me immediately regretful of like of reacting in that way, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, it that stuff gets really ingrained in you. It's hard to get away from it.
Yeah, but that's definitely, I mean, that's so clear that that's what Del Toro was going for with that. I mean, with the whole movie in general, but also that scene in particular, it was definitely like such a direct, Victor's like ingrained reaction to that sort of thing is directly from his father. I wanted to talk more. You mentioned it earlier, where this Del Toro kind of doesn't follow the book at all, like in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, this might be like the most lavish and like epic telling of this story, I think.
Oh, yeah.
That it's like, I think it would be an interesting double feature with a version that follows the book really closely. Like maybe with like Frankenstein or Terror of Frankenstein, I mean, where that movie is like really close and it's really pared down. Like it's so, I just remember the creation scene from that movie being so memorable because it was so quiet and there's no background like machinery or like chemical stuff. It's very, very cut down to like basic bare bones, what Mary Shelley was going for when she wrote the creation scene in the book. So I think that like having the juxtaposition of this Del Toro crazy, big, epic, beautiful, like expensive looking version with a much more modestly made version that tries to stick closer to the actual like novel.
Yeah, I do think that would be interesting. I feel like, again, being surprised that Del Toro didn't follow it is kind of dumb on my part. Like, of course, he is such an auteur. Like, he wants to tell his story, and I think maybe the thing that surprised me the most is like, I think he also has a pretty. After The Shape of Water, I think he has like a reputation as being like, he wants, like me, he wants the monsters to find romantic love. Like,
yes,
there's like everybody makes a lot of jokes about The Shape of Water as being like, the fish fucking movie and stuff. But so I think I was a little surprised that there's a little bit of there with Mia Goth sort of like, having a relationship with the monster, or an interest in the monster. But I think more with this one, Del Toro like diverged from the book in that he wanted it to really dial into like the relationship between the monster and Victor. Like they're especially like, it's the father-son thing, but it all kind of culminates on the ship at the end. In a way that like the book doesn't really, we don't really get that like resolution of their relationship. They kind of go out, still at odds with one another at the end of the book. Whereas here it's very much about them sort of like realizing how with Victor realizing how he has failed his creation and like asking for forgiveness. And that feels like maybe, some wish fulfillment as well. Like it's great. We want the monster to find love and be happy, but also like, a lot of us may have complicated relationships with our fathers or with, whatever we want to consider like our creator. And having this moment where the monster sort of gets to reconnect and feel seen and heard by his maker at the end, I think is maybe a similar like vicarious thing where we can like appreciate that moment.
Yeah, I think Del Toro like basically combining the Arctic cave meeting with the final like boat confrontation was a really, really interesting move because that, the monster tells Victor his story in the Arctic cave in the book, and that's when he, before he asks him to create a bride or a companion for him. In this, having the monster tell his story now, like at the ending, we learned that the monster never really fully went into like everything that happened up until the first time he met Victor again, until this final like confrontation as Victor is dying, in the captain's quarters on the ship. I think that, I don't know, there's something about that I think makes it feel a lot more emotionally charged in a way. They've been through all this. We see, flashbacks and stuff, all this violence towards one another and like the fighting and, Elizabeth dying. And finally here at the end, they're both kind of like tired and they're just like talking basically as like the final confrontation between Victor and the monster. It's like a direct, emotionally confrontational talk.
And talking about the violence, I think that's something else that I found really, really compelling about this version is I think the challenge that people run into when talking about or writing about Frankenstein is that, like, it's a fine line, but you have to, like, keep the monster sympathetic, but he does have to do some monstrous stuff for this to all work. Like, he has to commit some violence, and, we can justify it as, like, Victor's cruel to him or whatever, so he has to take revenge and everything. But it's tricky. I mean, like, when the monster kills, Henry Clerval, like, Clerval didn't do anything. Like, there's no real recourse for why he would do that, other than that he's just angry and just, like, taking out he wants to punish Victor. But here, all of the violence is, like, it feels more justified, and often it's all mistakes. Like, pretty much everybody who the monster or is involved, like, even, like, he doesn't kill Elizabeth. Victor shoots her, like,
yeah.
There's so much like, but we also
he doesn't kill William either.
Yeah, it's all like he's present for violence, and it could be said that, like, by being part of these violent confrontations, he might have some responsibility. It's the same thing with, like, if you rob a convenience store and your friend gets shot by a cop, you can get, or, that kind of thing where, like, you're part of the violence that's happening, so you're responsible in some way. But really, like, the only, like, direct violence that the monster does is, like, defensive things. Like, like, when we first see him in the Arctic, he's just fucking throwing guys around, which is a great introduction. Like, he's a monster. He's just, roaring with this animalistic roar that, like, is, not a human sound at all, and just picking up guys and throwing them at the side of the boat and stuff. Like, but again, he's attacking people who are shooting at him, like, it's not like a revenge thing. It's a, it's a preservation thing. It's defensive. And yeah, I mean, and he kills some wolves. I don't know that he actively, like, intentionally kills anyone in this.
No, because even when he gets up onto the boat, he still only attacks the guys that, like, are attacking him. There's plenty of sailors up there that don't try to shoot him or stab him, and he doesn't do anything to them. And then the wolves, he doesn't even kill all the wolves. Like, 2 of the wolves, or 2 or 3, escape. And then when those guys come back and find him and they think that he's killed the blind old hermit, he only kills that one guy. The other 2, well, I mean, they chase him and shoot him in the face, but yeah, I can't think of a single person that he kills in this that is not actively attacking him. Like, there's no murder for murder's sake in this, like in the book. Because in the book, the monster, he does get vicious and kill people that don't deserve it just to punish Victor, like you said. But yeah, this, like, Del Toro has made the monster completely, like, sinless in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, like, and it's so impressive because he is still monstrous. He's still capable of great violence when he has to. But yeah, it does feel like he's just completely. It's like self-defense. He's never, like, malicious in the way that the monster can be in the novel and is in, a lot of the adaptations. But, like, he's not, like the Karloff monster, especially, like, in Frankenstein. By Bride, he does some, like, intentional violence, but, in Frankenstein, he, like, accidentally drowns a girl because he doesn't understand, which, he's childlike, he's simple, but the monster is violent when he needs to. Like, it's not that he doesn't know what he's doing, it's just that he only does it when he absolutely has to.
I think, we haven't really talked about the monster yet, so I think now we can kind of transition into that. I think Del Toro making the monster, like, free of any kind of, like, malicious sin in this definitely has a lot to do with his, like, Christ like kind of vision for the creature, because he's, the resurrection slab. It looks like a table, but when it gets lifted all the way up, the arms extend, and so it's very much like cross, like he's crucified like Jesus Christ. And then on his side, he's got like a wound that was intentional in the production. Del Toro literally calls it like the Longinus wound, like Christ received while he was being crucified. Really, the monster is the one that is suffering for his creator in like a sort of Jesus Christ suffering for God for the benefit of humanity kind of way,
Yeah.
I think Victor is definitely like sort of like the Old Testament God in this, where he's very capricious and hateful and like a jealous God, you know what I mean? He's envious of William and Elizabeth, and he's, by the end, I guess, because the monster has gone through this long form kind of crucifixion and suffering, that Victor, I guess, in a way sort of becomes like the New Testament God, where he's a lot more chilled out, and they kind of come together at the end, and everything works out for them, or for the monster. Kind of. Victor dies, but
that last scene, like, one thing that I as we got to it, I was like, oh, I know what's getting ready to happen, and it doesn't actually, and maybe it would be like a bridge too far or something, but like usually is the case, the monster never gets a name, and it's sort of like becomes an ongoing thing that like the monster, the only word he knows for a long time is Victor. And then eventually he learns Elizabeth's name, and this is like the first indication that like maybe he's capable of thought, and that but like at first Victor still doesn't know that he's said Elizabeth, and it kind of continues that way. And at the end there's like where like Victor asks him like, give me my name again, like say my name, you said it so many times, but like almost like, if you call me by my name this one last time before I die, I will feel like I'm forgiven, like I am your father and you're accepting me, and like taking me back sort of. And I almost expected him to like then in return give the monster a name, whether it is now you're Victor or now you're Frankenstein or Adam or whatever. I thought he was going to give the monster a name there at the end, and he still doesn't, which kind of surprised me. But I also like, I feel like sometimes once you give the monster a name, you've kind of like undone this important aspect of the monster. Like his namelessness is important, and so once you give him the name, you can't take it back. He's no longer this archetype. He's a named person now. So that might be why Del Toro refused to do that even there at the very end.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely was thinking that I was specifically thinking he was going to give him the name Victor. For a while, I was like, I bet that's going to happen, because him saying Victor thing when he, like, right after he's created it was like such a thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it literally makes Victor angry that he only can say Victor, that I was like, I was definitely thinking that too, that he would get a name and that it would specifically be Victor at the end. But I agree. I think that definitely is what you said with naming the creature kind of does take away from his otherness in a way, and I definitely think that's what Del Toro was thinking as well, and that's probably why he didn't end up going through with it.
I liked the idea of like thinking. I feel like the way it plays out, I think Del Toro wants you to think that might happen and like kind of ponder it and then just not give it to you. Like I can't imagine watching that scene and not have at least an inkling that might be about to happen. Especially because they do, like, I think this movie specifically does mention, like, the definition of this name. Like, I think they talk about, like, Victor meaning, like, the winner, the one who is victorious. And so, it definitely feels like there at the end, Victor Frankenstein dies and the creature lives on, that he is sort of the victor in that way. Not that he's necessarily bound for like great happiness, but he has a chance. Like I think Victor Frankenstein is like, you know, go out, like live your life. You have this. We don't know, like we haven't even talked about, like, one of the things that's really explicit in this is like he has really great healing abilities, which certainly seems to indicate that he will be immortal or at least very, very long-lived. So presumably he's got a lot of life ahead of him after Victor dies.
Well, that ties into the creature in this movie. He doesn't directly ask for a bride. Like when he confronts Victor and everything, you know, normally you would be like, all right, this is where he's going to say, you know, create a mate for me or a bride or whatever. He brings up the idea of companionship and not, he specifically, I think he says he doesn't want to be left like immortal and alone, like to live forever, like in solitude, because nobody else would be able to live with him. But I don't think he ever actually directly asks Victor for a bride. He's more so like asking for, you know, an end to the loneliness in a way. And by the end, I think what he's wanting is to die, the monster, because like, you know, at the end before they get to the boat and Victor's in the Arctic and the creature, by the way, once again, creature doesn't attack the dogs. He only pulls Victor out of the tent. Whereas in, like, you know, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Robert De Niro's creature is fucking choke slamming those dogs like left and right at the beginning. But Victor has that stick of dynamite, and the creature is like literally, he's like, okay, well, yeah, we'll see if this works. And if it does, then I'll leave you alone because I'll be dead. And if not, you need to fucking get ready because I'm going to keep coming. And he literally tries in that scene to commit suicide. Like he holds the dynamite directly to his chest, and even that still doesn't kill him. So I think he's very much like trapped in this sort of biological immortality forever, and that's like the biggest problem is he doesn't even want like a wife necessarily or like a mate. He just wants somebody to share in that loneliness with him so that it's not as unbearable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely like part of like monstrousness in general. I think it's a intentional sort of thing that like Victor's big Gothic lab has like a huge Medusa on the wall, like a huge like seal that's shaped like Medusa's head, you know, and Medusa being like sort of a mother of monsters, and also someone who is sort of like destined to be killed because she can't be anything else. Like she can't have love, she can't have a companion because she kills anyone that sees her. You know, I think that's like, you know, being a monster means you have to be unmade at some point. And I think near the end that this creature is like rushing towards that. He's trying to close the loop, do the thing that monsters are supposed to do. And it's almost like the fact that he can't is Del Toro being like, no, you're not really a monster. You're something else. You know, you're Christ-like. You're something better than a monster. And so you don't die.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, coming from a director like Del Toro, I think that's definitely what they were going for. Because Del Toro definitely, like a lot of his monsters, they're only monstrous in the context that they are not human. But like the fish, the amphibious man in The Shape of Water, they make reference to people, you know, from the rainforest or wherever they caught him, worshiping him as a god. And we find out that the creature can literally heal wounds on humans and can survive, you know, gunshots to the heart. And so it is more than a monster. It is like this extra human. It's better than man. Like men could never like spiritually live up to this thing that they, you know, call a monster and that they attack and try to kill, while the whole time this quote-unquote monster is beautiful in its own way. It's like it's in touch with nature in a way that humans can't be, just like the creature in Frankenstein. You know, he feeds those deer without them trying to run away because they don't see him as like a threat.
Yeah.
There's definitely some of that going on where like these monsters, quote unquote, are really sort of a transcended human form that's just like there's something more than human in like a positive way.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like precedent for that. Like, I mean, you have like the biblically accurate angel thing, that's sort of like become this like internet meme lately, where people are like, oh, what the Bible describes and like all of our pretty paintings of angels are very different things. But yeah, the way they're described is they're scary, they're monstrous, but they are transcendent and beautiful. It's just they're outside of the way that humans can process the idea of beauty. Like they break what we expect, and so they're kind of monstrous in that way. But they're, again, something beyond a monster. They're something much bigger and purer. And yeah, I think that both this version of the Frankenstein monster, as well as the Gill Man character from The Shape of Water, are similar in that, like, we can't process what we're seeing, so that it has to be bad and monstrous, but actually it's something else altogether.
And with Elizabeth's attraction to the creature, I mean, with her obsession with insects, that's very much of the same, saying the same thing, is like, because insects are a much more specialized kind of being. Like, they're much more specialized to their environment. They are simple in a way that is both beautiful, but also for some people it's disgusting. A lot of people don't like insects. And Elizabeth's obsession with insects and her love and admiration for them, I think she even says that, like, insects are... she has a line where it's something like, insects are like a closer form of being to, like, God or the holy, because they're so much, basically, I think in a way she's trying to say they're more evolved than humans, like, in a certain sense. And I think that definitely is what makes her attraction to the monster much more, like, instant, is that she can tell that this being is so inhuman that he's, like, one of the most beautiful things she's ever seen.
Yeah, I think that's you're right on there. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I think you're definitely right. And I feel like when my friends and I were walking into the theater, like, I said something about, like, I expect, because Mia Goth often plays multiple characters and stuff, that she's gonna have like a similar kind of story to Helena Bonham Carter in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, where she's gonna end up being both Elizabeth and a Bride of Frankenstein monster figure. But I like better that she almost becomes like she almost becomes a companion to the monster without having to become a monster herself. And then I mean, the fact that Victor kills her and then the monster carries her away as she's dying, and they, like, gets to spend a moment with her last moments on Earth, but doesn't, take her back to Victor and be like, electrocute her, turn her into a bride. I think again that kind of, like, separates him from monstrousness, and that, like, he doesn't want her to be a monster. He doesn't want her to suffer the way he suffers. But, like, he still has that connection with her.
Yeah, it's really, there's definitely a world where this movie was slightly different and the monster and Elizabeth end up together by the end of the movie, I feel like, where she's still human, but choosing to be the creature's companion for at least as long as she's alive. That definitely is, like, the vibe. Like, if Victor hadn't have, accidentally shot her, quote unquote, accidentally, because in that scene, it almost feels intentional, because she's so clearly smitten with the monster that it almost feels like Victor kills her so that, if I can't have you, then no one can, sort of thing. And then he's conveniently able to blame the monster because he's there. Yeah,
because that scene, it doesn't, it's not like a chaotic moment where, like, a shot's fired. It feels like there's a second where he makes the choice.
And
I think you could definitely read it where, like, he's trying to shoot the monster and misses, or that he knows what he's doing, and like you said, like, if she's gonna prefer him over me, then she can't go on. which again, really marks Victor as the true monster in this. I mean, that's becomes sort of like a refrain that people often like. Well, if actually the monster, Victor's Frankenstein's the doctor, but he's actually the real monster. And this movie doesn't have to like beat you over the head with that, but in that,
it's not subtext in this. It's very much text.
Yeah.
Which also, I mean, this is another echo of Victor's father, because Victor is the creator, and he sees his spawn basically being more the female that he views as his being more interested in his spawn. Victor at the beginning, he accuses his father of letting his mother die during childbirth, and it's entirely possible that he did do that because her and Victor were so close that it was fucking with his sense of control, or his sense of like being the patriarch of this family. So I think that also is another very likely echo of Victor's behavior mirroring his father's without him realizing or meaning for it to. He's sort of this like jealous patriarchal god figure who, if he doesn't get his way, he's gonna fuck it up for somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it does feel like this movie that like it rhymes. Everything is like an echo of something that came before, or I guess you could look at it the other way and say that there's all these sort of precursors that set everything in motion, that are sort of like foreshadowing or teasing the real problems that come later.
Well, it rhymes and it echoes until the very end, where Victor and the creature decide to break the cycle. Because, when Victor's a kid, his dad dies in a way that makes me feel like obviously they never had a chance to make up. They never really had a chance to reconcile all of their feelings and everything. But with Victor and his son, quote unquote, they choose to break that cycle of abuse, and they do reconcile, before Victor finally dies. So it's I think that's very much what Del Toro was going for, is like these cycles of abuse that, affect not only the two people in the cycle, but also like everybody else in the quote unquote family, or, everybody around them. And you have to choose to finally break that and intentionally, come to terms with everything and reconcile for any hope of the future to actually be positive for at least somebody in the relationship.
And, I think that also goes back to the sort of like framing story, which is maybe is a little bit more faithful to the book than a lot of the other parts, but still has some interesting changes. The framing story generally being, that Victor is telling his story to the captain to try to convince him that like this sort of like single-minded pursuit of progress can result in great human suffering. And by the end, the captain realizing it and choosing that, okay, we're going to go home. We're not going to go to the North Pole. But here we have the added element where like, yeah, they're stuck in the ice and they keep trying to break out and they can't. And it seems like they're stuck in place because they aren't like the captain's not capable of making the right decision. But once he does, once Victor has convinced him that he's, maybe, blindly pursuing his own form of progress in the same way Victor did, then the monster, the creature, is the one who frees them. He is able to, with his super strength, break the ship free of the ice and set it sailing back home. So like we get this last little gift from the creature, this God figure that like this Christ figure that once the captain has made the right decision, he helps him, achieve that.
Yeah, that's definitely in there. I didn't even think about that while I was thinking of Victor and the creature. It hadn't even occurred to me that, it's not Captain Walton in this, I guess we should say. Captain Anderson, because Del Toro sort of jumps the timeline a little bit, and this is not set in the late 1700s, early 1800s. It's set in the middle of the 1800s, and so the captain is slightly different. It's like a Norwegian or Swedish crew of sailors. They definitely benefit from this reconciliation between the God and the Christ, and this this breaking of the cycle. But man, this movie is so good. It's so incredible. I cannot wait for it to drop on Netflix so that I can watch it again. I think I texted you about it, but I was having so many issues trying to get to see this in theaters because the theatrical release was so limited, and there was all the theaters in Georgia that were showing it were either in Atlanta or way past Atlanta, and it was just a fucking headache. But I am glad that I did get to actually see it in a theater, because I think Del Toro definitely shot this for a theatrical experience. But I will still be watching it on Netflix, probably 100 times a day. But
yeah, I'm absolutely going to be revisiting this very soon. I hope that Netflix breaks their general tradition and does release it on some sort of physical media. I know they did with his Pinocchio was put out on Criterion and stuff, so I'd imagine we'll see something similar.
They've done it with Stranger Things as well, so I'm hoping that this. I'm going to assume it is going to get some kind of physical release, because I think Del Toro behind the scenes is pushing for that. I think that was maybe when they were getting everything set up to start production on this movie. I think that was probably something that he was very adamant about, was that it needs to have a physical release at some point, because if it doesn't, I'm going to be very upset. This is definitely a movie that you and I have got the behind the scenes book, but I feel like there's probably so much behind the scenes footage and making of extras stuff that they have got that there's got to be a physical release with a bunch of DVD or Blu-ray extras.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna need to see so many featurettes and behind the scenes and commentaries. I'm gonna eat all that stuff up. So
yeah, but the creature himself, Jacob Elordi, I don't know if you've seen anything that Jacob Elordi's been in before, but I have only ever seen one clip from Euphoria and Saltburn. Mm-hmm. And so way back when Andrew Garfield dropped out and they announced that Jacob Elordi would be replacing him, I was kind of I don't know how I feel about that. I've only ever seen him in a couple things, and he doesn't really seem that talented, I guess. I can't think of a better word, or at least not talented in the way that I would imagine an actor would need to be to play a really compelling version of the Frankenstein monster. But I can happily say that Jacob Elordi blew my ass away in this movie. He was incredible.
Yeah, I had the same fears. I was just I don't want this to be a teen heartthrob kind of thing. I was fearing that this was going to be Twilight kind of portrayal of the monster or something, but no.
Yeah.
Elordi is fantastic. He gets a lot of the pathos of the monster. The makeup looks great and everything. That does a lot, but it is definitely his actual performance that seals the deal. He's incredible in it. I've heard that there's already getting some Oscar buzz, and he definitely deserves it, because he's just unparalleled, just the best Frankenstein monster we've seen since Karloff. It's just he just gets it all exactly the way I wanted it to be.
Oh yeah, and I mean he's doing so much. He's not just emoting with his face. He's doing so much physical acting. The creature's movements are so when he's first born, they're so herky jerky, but also confused in like a newborn kind of way when Victor first sees him, when he's woken up from that dream in bed. The creature's he's got this real kind of like genuine feeling, natural curiosity of like a being that's just been brought into existence. He's got the childish, like slowly learning, but also he's still very new, so he's accidentally hurting himself. He's getting upset, he's getting angry because he doesn't understand why Victor is being so unfair to him. I mean, it's incredible. There's several scenes where Jacob Elordi's hands are visible, and he's doing this thing with his fingers that I think is like a specific reference to like Karloff's hands. Because a lot of time, and when Karloff was the monster and he would have his hands down by his sides, his fingers would be kind of like sort of splayed out and like stiff in a way. And I think that's definitely like a reference to Karloff and sort of the non-humanness of this body that he's inhabiting. The height works. He's like, without having big platform boots, he's one of the tallest Frankensteins we've ever gotten in a movie. His physicality works. Like, he's so thin and like almost emaciated in a way, but he's still got such a power to him once he's fully gone on the revenge path against Victor. Like when we see him at the beginning in the Arctic, he's almost more like a bear, like a rampaging brown bear, than like a Frankenstein monster.
Yeah, and they got him in that big fur coat, so yeah, he just...
Yes. So good, so incredible. The hair, his hand movements, I think, were a reference to Karloff, but the hair was so obviously a reference to the bride, because when you see it in light, his hair isn't black. It's like it got a sort of brownish, reddish tint with that one strand of white on the side. And if anybody knows the bride's wig from The Bride of Frankenstein, in real life, it was a red wig with white highlights. It wasn't black hair. And so that very much feels intentional. Everybody's already saying everything that they could say about the creature. It's so good that there's not a whole lot to talk about unless it's like in direct relationship with the other characters in the film.
Yeah. I mean, it's just masterful in a way that was so unexpected. I mean, I guess that's the thing, is like you should just always trust that Del Toro knows what he's doing, and he got the right people to do everything. And I don't like. I'm the same way. I've seen Jacob Elordi in Saltburn and this, and like Saltburn was whatever, but like Elordi is doing something totally different here, and I don't know if it's just that Del Toro just got the exact right performance out of him, but yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Jacob. I don't remember who it was with or what it was for, but he was talking about accepting the role from Guillermo, and he was like, Guillermo called me on the phone, and he was like, we'd already been in talks and discussions about it. And he said, listen, Jacob, if you take this, it's real, like it's serious. If you take this role, it's like the gospel. You need to come at it with the same kind of reverence that a religious person would come at, telling the story of Jesus. And so I think that definitely, that combination of Guillermo's enthusiasm and genuine, like, reverence for this story and for the creature, like, in and of itself, definitely helped Jacob Elordi get into that right kind of mindset and really give as much as he could to the role.
Yeah, I think I think you're right on there. It's religious, like, and we knew that it was for Del Toro. I mean, if you seen him talk about Frankenstein before this movie, or seen pictures of his house or whatever, like, it is. Oh, yeah. It's a religion for him for sure. And yeah, the way that he was able to get everybody else on board with his religion for this is really special.
It's like a really monster kid version of L. Ron Hubbard getting people to sign up for Scientology.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I don't really have a whole lot else to say about the movie. Did you have anything else you wanted to cover? I had some other stuff I wanted to ask before we got off, but it's less directly related to the film.
No, yeah, I think that was all I had to say.
Are you generally a big Del Toro fan? Like, have you seen all of his stuff?
Yeah, I think I've seen everything of his, and pretty much I love all of it. I feel like Nightmare Alley is probably my least favorite of his, but I still enjoyed it. But like, yeah, I mean, the early, like Pan's Labyrinth and Kronos and all those earlier ones that are just, you know, beautiful fairy tales with all kinds of creature effects. I love all of that. I even like his more like overtly genre stuff like Hellboy and Pacific Rim. I like those too. Like whatever he does, I'm there for it.
Yeah, I would agree. I guess I'm not, like, I like watching a lot of movies. I don't know that I would really call myself a cinephile because I'm not super into like a bunch of different genres. I mainly stick to horror, so I don't know if I could really call myself a cinephile, but I guess if I had a favorite director, it would probably be Guillermo del Toro.
Especially like if you're looking at just like living directors, like, yeah, there's nobody doing it the way he does it.
Yeah, I mean, like, his early stuff is so raw and, like, I don't know, it's just so unique with, you know, Kronos, The Devil's Backbone, and then Pan's Labyrinth, and then him doing, like, getting into, like, you know, more blockbustery stuff like Mimic and Blade 2, and then the Hellboy movies, which I'm a huge Hellboy comics fan, and those two Hellboy movies are still the best Hellboy thing that we've gotten, that, you know, out of all the, like, animated movies and other two live action films, because I think Del Toro really kind of, while he didn't get all the characterization right as it is in the comics, he definitely grasped the core concept of that, like, monsters protecting a world that doesn't really like them and having to come to terms with, like, destiny and stuff. And then, you know, Pacific Rim, really fun, really, like, extremely entertaining. Shape of Water was, for a long time, after I first saw it, was like one of my favorite. I mean, I think I had it in my like top 5 favorite movies for like a long time. His Pinocchio was really good. I was so happy that they decided to do stop motion for that. Yeah, just, I mean, like, even his worst stuff, which, when I say worst, it's still a Guillermo del Toro movie, so it's still incredibly well made and very, like, good, like Nightmare Alley and Mimic. They're still great, you know? They're still, like, leagues above what most other directors, you know, worst movies, or, like, even their mid movies would be, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, he brings like a visual eye and just like a sense of beauty to everything he does that, yeah, it's unmatched.
I think that's about it. I didn't really have anything else I wanted to cover.
Yeah, I think that's all I've got. So you know, we're figuring out what our new arrange, like how everything's going to play out. So I don't exactly know what's going to be next week. I know we usually tease things. Hopefully we'll be able to get back into the swing of that here shortly. But yeah, we're not going anywhere. We're gonna, you know, I think, you know, Eric and Hayden are gonna be kind of passing the ball back and forth, and hopefully I'll be here for all of it. And yeah, we're really excited for this sort of new chapter. It should be a lot of fun. And yeah, we've still got a big long list of movies, so we'll be around for hopefully many years to come. So yeah, thank you for hopping on board, Hayden, and joining us for this ride, because yeah, it's you know, like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to have you here more often.
I'm very excited that you asked me to come on and be a part of it. I would. There's very few things that I could talk about ad nauseum that most people would actually be able to talk about, and usually Frankenstein isn't one of them. So getting to be on a podcast with other people that are just as into Frankenstein as I am it's really special, because I can't just, you know, at a party break out the well, did you know the reason that people think Frankenstein walks with stiff arms actually comes from the Universal movies, and blah 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 blah. Yeah. You know, people generally aren't that interested in that kind of information, so it's really special getting to be somewhere where that is much more acceptable behavior.
Well, it's definitely welcome here. So yeah, we're glad to have you, and I'm excited to see where things go from here. And of course, I guess anybody who wants to reach out, you can always find us on all the socials at the Frankencast. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. We're also on YouTube and at patreon.com/thefrankencast, where we've got lots of back episodes, all kinds of stuff, and probably we'll be seeing Hayden over there as well. So look forward to more discussions about various comic books and TV shows and all kinds of new stuff over there as well. So we'd love to have you check out that and join in when you can.
Well, if that's it, to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.